A few weeks ago, a buddy of mine and I were driving out to Colorado, and we were talking in the car about a speech I did back in freshman year of college about high-speed rail networks, and specifically a persuasive speech about getting a high-speed rail network set up in this country, in the United States. And I decided to do some digging today because I was kind of reflecting on my educational experience for one reason or another. And I found the material that I'd used, and I thought I would sort of publish it. So here's me publishing that material. And disclaimer here, a lot of this data is kind of old. It's 2012 now. And some of this data is from 2005, some of it's from like 2009, etc., etc. So some of the data is a little old, but just get over that. So let's start by looking at the problems with current long-distance transportation technologies. Right now, current transportation methods are very unsafe. And yes, there's autonomous cars and all of that might alleviate some of those issues, but still, as it stands, transportation is unsafe. Long-distance transportation tends to be unsafe. Some statistics for you. In 2005, about 20,000 people died and over 1 million people were injured due to automobile accidents. That's a big number. That's a really big number, and it doesn't even include 95,000 people who have died or were injured due to motorcycle accidents. And yeah, there are a lot of factors, speed, alcohol, etc., that we can spend hours debating about, but as it stands, driving a car is really dangerous, actually. In comparison to that, only 16 people died on the entire railroad transit system in that year. Now, that's still 16 deaths, and it's sad, but that's 16 compared to 20,000 that died on our highway system in the same year. That's a big difference. Another issue, current transportation methods are really slow. A little example that I'm going to be using throughout this whole video is this trip between Omaha, Nebraska and Chicago, Illinois. The assumption is that it's a pretty common trip that you might make if you're a business person or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you look it up on Google Maps, there's about 467 miles between Omaha, Nebraska, and Chicago, Illinois. In a car, according to Google Maps at least, that would take 7 hours and 17 minutes. If you took an Amtrak, our current railroad system for passenger rail at least, it would take 9 hours and 36 minutes, which, by the way, is longer than it would take you to drive a car. Granted, you have free time and you can take a nap or get some work done or grab a beer during the time, but it's still a long time to be in a little capsule. And then, of course, in an airplane, like an airliner, it'll only take about an hour and 22 minutes, so that's pretty fast, but it's also really expensive. Thirdly, current transportation methods are really inefficient and environmentally unfriendly. So if we look at this cute little chart I made, you can see that overall fuel efficiency per passenger has trended downward overall. That's just because of advancement in technology and that sort of thing. And the other thing that I'd like to point out is that rail and motorcycle transit efficiency they started low and they're still low. One option would be to just drive motorcycles everywhere. Not everyone wants to drive a motorcycle, and they're kind of scary, and they kind of suck in the wintertime. So my claim is rail is a better solution. It's faster. Obviously, it's illegal to go over the speed limit, and even then you can't go as fast as a train could unless you're in a Formula One car or something. And rail is also safer, and saw the statistics, they obviously agree with that. Now that we've discussed a little bit about what what the problems are in our current national transportation system, I claim that I can show you how to fix it. Yep. And there are a variety of solutions to the problem, at least in the context of railroads. All of these solutions are actually presented in a report entitled High Speed Ground Transportation for America, written by the Federal Railroad Administration. So they already know what the hell they're talking about. So the first solution is to upgrade existing rail lines and trains, and this is the most conservative solution. And the Amtrak Acela lines are an example of this. I think those are out in New England or whatever, and they go kind of fast. Trains like this would allow for speeds up to 150 miles per hour, and that's maximum, not taking into account stops and all that. The total cost for these upgrades and such would be between $1 and $10 million per mile of track. At that speed, 150 miles per hour, the trip between Omaha, Nebraska and Chicago, Illinois would take about 3 hours. Much better than 7 or 9. The second solution, which is kind of a moderate solution, would be to create new lines built specifically for high-speed rail. An example of this sort of solution would be the French TGV fleet, and there might be more now. So, creating new rail lines and locomotives would allow for speeds of up to 200 miles an hour, which is better still. Total cost of these new tracks and all that would be between $10 and $45 million per mile. The trip from Omaha, Nebraska to Chicago, Illinois at that rate would take about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Which is getting better, but it's still not as good as it could be. We could build new train lines, or we could build new maglev lines. And if you've ever been to Disney World, they have a maglev train, and you know, it's fast and efficient because there's no friction, there's no wheels and all that. Well, same thing applies. Because of all those gains in efficiency, maglev trains can go up to around 300 miles per hour. I think there's some in Japan that go like 250, maybe 300, and you know, technology is advancing all the time. That's fast. It's also the most expensive alternative at between $20 and $50 million per mile of track. And the trip from Omaha to Nebraska to Chicago, Illinois at that rate would take just an hour and a half. And that's getting really close to, commute time. So, you know, the best solution might involve a combination of all three of the technologies and, you know, save some cost wherever you can, whatever. One question that you might ask is, where are we going to build these new rail lines if we did? Obviously, the advantage for aircraft is that they don't need you to build a road or anything for them to fly on. But they're also more expensive. So where would we build train lines if we wanted to make a new maglev rail from, I don't know, San Francisco to Los Angeles or wherever? Well, the government has already answered this question for the most part. This map, which I got from the Federal Railroad Administration website a while back, shows the suggested routes within federally designated high-speed rail corridors. To reiterate, these corridors are federally designated. That means the government went and organized all this stuff. Or at least that's what it means to me. One of my suggestions to improve this would be to interconnect the corridors themselves so that, you know, you aren't trapped in Texas or anything like that. And I also think that you could add some sort of high-speed lines just to go over the longer stretches between east part of the country and across the Rocky Mountains over the Pacific coast. Cost is obviously going to be the major inhibitor to this proposition. Using mostly new tracks, so you go 200 miles an hour in most of this stuff, the project would cost about $100 billion, according to my calculations. $100 billion. Compared to how much did the government spend bailing out Wall Street? $750 billion. So $100 billion, guarantee of job creation, guarantee of increased commerce because of all the people that can suddenly go to California or the Mall of America or wherever, and a guarantee of a safer transportation network. Yeah, okay. Seems like a no-brainer to me, but apparently Mr. President Barack Obama doesn't agree with me. He did give, in some act or whatever, he gave $8 billion to improve railways and do the whole high-speed rail thing. That's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. That's not the initiative we need to get this sort of thing done. Another just fun fact for you. $100 billion is roughly the same cost as the Eisenhower interstate system, which, by the way, every single person uses. So, what can be done about this? I mentioned the $8 billion that President Obama gave to the Railway Administration, probably to do just administrative work, essentially. And there's also this initiative in the Midwest I know about to get a high-speed rail line between Omaha and Chicago, and past through Iowa City and Des Moines, all that fun stuff. What they want to do with that is just upgrade the rail. And I've read the document, or the release, or whatever, the press release about that. All they want to do is upgrade the rail. So the common metaphor, comparison they use for that is that upgrading the rail so that you can go 150 miles an hour from Omaha to Chicago it would be the same as upgrading to Windows 95. We are paying to live in the past, essentially. Japan's always already got all these cool trains, and I guess China probably does too. Europe's got a huge continental rail network, and the United States is stuck with cars because we don't have the ability to get any fire under our asses to get this kind of thing done. It pisses me off, to be blunt about it. And then our government doesn't have the money or the initiative to do anything like this. So, I claim that the solution is to start a private initiative to establish and operate a nationwide high-speed rail network in this country. That's it.